Hey guys, we're reading Internal Family Systems, the Self-Therapy Workbook. We are on Chapter 16, Retrieving an Exile. Okay, exiles are living in the past, experiencing past trauma over and over again. An important step in the healing process is giving an exile the option of being retrieved or taken out of the childhood environment. This is a very powerful act on its behalf. The exile is usually shocked that this is possible. You may need to educate the exile more specifically as to who you are and the fact that you live in a different time in which the threats and restrictions of the past no longer apply. Let the exile know how old you are and what your life is like now. It is important to check with the exile and make sure it understands that it has been living in the past and that it is possible for you to bring it into the present, where things will be different. Ask the exile if it would like to be taken out of the past and brought to a safe, comfortable place. The exile will probably ask where it will go. It is often appropriate to ask the exile to choose where it would like to go. You have a number of general options of where you can take the exile. You can take it into your home to be with you in your current life. If your current life does not feel completely safe, you can discuss having the exile stay with someone it feels safe with, real or imagined. You can bring the exile into your body, for example, to live in your heart. You can create an imaginary place for the exile to stay where it will feel safe. And here's a little picture. You can support the exile's wishes regarding where it wants to go. For example, an exile that has been confined may want to be free. In that case, you can remind the exile that your door is always open if it wants to visit or come live with you at some point in the future. Sometimes exiles are hesitant to be retrieved. The following are a number of possible reasons. Asking about retrieval may bring up issues of mistrust. The protectors that come up around this issue need to be worked with in the same way you would work with any other protector concern. The reparenting experience may have made it safer for the exile to exist where it is. The exile may want to stay there for a while and feel what it is like. Exiles may have concerns about others that they take care of. For example, some exiles are protectors of younger exiles, sometimes a sibling. Usually, they hear that they can take the other exiles with them. They have an easier time being retrieved. Sometimes the dynamics of the family situation are cause for concern. The exile may believe that it has to take care of a parent or that the family will fall apart if it leaves. This kind of enmeshment should probably be considered a burden and should be worked with as in Chapter 17. Temporary retrieval. It's often appropriate to work with exiles in stages over a period of time. The retrieval process can also happen at earlier stages of the work with an exile. If you are getting to know an exile in a sequence of sessions, at the end of a session, you might offer to take it out of the past situation and find it a safer place to stay until you meet again. If the exile is not ready to do this, you might offer it some kind of support while it remains in the past. A warm blanket, a flashlight, or anything else the exile desires can make a difference while it waits to finish the work. Exercise. Retrieving an exile. You are now going to give the exile the opportunity to be retrieved. That is to come out of the past and into the present. You will probably want to work with an exile that you are familiar with, possibly the one from the previous exercises. As before, if you start with a new exile, remember to begin with the protector and go through the steps for getting to know it, as well as the first steps of getting to know the exile. You could wait to do this step after reparenting, or if you are feeling at any point that staying in the past is unsafe for the exile, you may suggest that you can bring it out. Wherever you start, take some time to bring in self-energy. You want to be clearly in self so that the exile can trust you and believe that you can and will take it out of this unpleasant situation. To get in self, it may be helpful to tense all your muscles and then breathe a deep sigh of relief as you relax them. You can also do this by muscle group, tensing and relaxing first your legs, then your lower torso, then your chest, then your arms, then your shoulders, and finally your neck and face. Follow this with a deep, life-giving breath in which you hold the inhale for a few counts and then hold the exhale for the same number of counts. From here, remind the protectors that you are present with the strength and compassion of self energy and with the best of healing intentions for the exile. When you are in self and are assured that the exile is aware of you and trusts you, offer it the possibility of being retrieved. You might say, are you aware that you have been living in the past? It is possible for me to help you leave this time and place and take you somewhere where you will be safe. Are you interested in doing that? Fill in below your experience in retrieving the exile. So you list the exile, where it is in the past, the stages of the process you have gone through with the exile, identifying it, getting permission to work with it, unblending from concerned parts, getting to know it, reparenting it, and unburdening it. How the exile responded when you asked it about coming out of the past and into the present, exile's concerns, if any, how you handled those concerns, where you were comfortable taking the exile, whether the exile was comfortable going there, how you brought the exile out, how the exile responded to being out of the past, and then use journal space below to take specific notes on this process. All right, so here is a sample on retrieving an exile. The exile is a good girl. Where it is in the past, second grade, having trouble with friends at a new school. The stages of the process you have gone through with the exile, identifying it, getting permission to work with it, unblending from concerned parts, getting to know it, and reparenting it. How the exile responded when you asked it about coming out of the past and into the present. She was happy to come into the present. How you brought the exile out. I walked into the scene, took her hand, and walked her into the present with me. Where you comfortable taking the exile? Where you were comfortable to be with me in my current life where we can play together. Whether the exile was comfortable going there. She was delighted to come. How the exile responded to being out of the past. She felt free and safe. All right, chapter 17, Unburdening an Exile. Okay, once you have accessed and witnessed the childhood origins of an exile's pain and you have reparented and retrieved the exile, the next major step is unburdening. This is an internal ritual of healing. As mentioned in chapter 14, a burden is an extreme feeling, memory, energy, or belief about oneself or about the world that a part has taken on as a result of childhood trauma, a specific incident, a relationship, or another painful situation. The burden is not natural to the part and therefore can be released. Preparing an exile for unburdening. Once you have clearly identified the burden or burdens associated with the situation you have been witnessing, ask the exile, do you want to give up or release the burden that you have been carrying? The part may jump at the opportunity to get rid of all that negativity, or it may be confused or reluctant. The unburdening process. When the exile is ready, ask the part where it carries the burden in or on its body. The part can feel this and see it, preferably both. For example, it might experience the burden as black glop in its heart, agitation in the abdomen, or a yucky feeling all over. Here's a little image. Okay. And ask the exile what it would like to release its burden. The burden can be released to one of the natural elements, given up to the light, washed away by water, blown away by wind, buried in the earth, burned up in fire, or anything else that feels right. The part may instead want to give the burden up to a spiritual figure such as God, Jesus, Muhammad, or an angel. Almost any image that allows the part to release what it has been holding is fine. From the place of self, help the exile to arrange the situation so it can release the burden in whatever way it wants. Allow as much time as needed for this process. You will probably feel the burden leaving the exile's body as it is released. You could suggest that the part tell you when it is finished or check with it during the process. Make sure that the part knows that it has as much time as it needs. If it can't release everything at this time, let it know it can release more at another time or as things come up. Check its body to see if anything else that doesn't belong to it needs to be released. Positive qualities. Once the burden is released, the exile is free to become more of what it truly is at its core. Notice what positive qualities or feelings arise in the part once the burden is gone. Unburdened parts often feel joy, strength, playfulness, freedom, love, or other similar qualities. A good question to ask the part is, what qualities that would be helpful in the future do you want to take in? As each quality comes up, let the part take time to breathe in separately. Allow some time for the part to feel the infusion of the specific quality and suggest that it let itself fully enjoy these experiences. As it does, feel how they manifest in your body. What does the part want to do now? Younger parts often want to just go out and play or be in a place where they can be free. Some parts want to stay in certain parts of your body, such as your heart, your head, or your belly. Some parts need to rest for a while and make up their minds later. Anything that feels like a step toward healing is fine. Reluctance to unburden. Here are some of the commonest reasons that exiles may resist unburdening. The exile may be confused about the idea of unburdening and not understand what the term means. Response. You can explain further that the memories, feelings, pain, beliefs, and confusions that the exile holds are from the past. They are not who the part is, just what it holds. It is possible to release those things and let them go. The part may have some concerns about who it will be without the burdens to identify. Response. You can assure the exile that you will help it handle that situation when the time comes. The part will have some choice about who it is. The exile may be reluctant or frightened to let go of the burdens. Response. Ask it, why are you attached to this burden? Or what are you afraid would happen if you let this burden go? You can help the exile handle its fears. Sometimes when an exile doesn't feel ready to unburden, something else needs to happen first. More witnessing, more trust of self, fuller reparenting or retrieval, and so on. There also might be another part that doesn't want the burden to be released. Response. Work with the exile to identify what is needed and address the issues one by one until they are all taken care of. Don't proceed with the unburdening until the part is completely ready. Sometimes the part may only be ready to release some of the burden. Response. You can give the exile permission to let go of a percentage of the burden, but not all of it. You can then unburden that percentage and come back to the issue in a future session. Unburdening is just the final step in a long path toward healing. All the preceding steps are just as important. Exercise. Unburdening an exile. We are now going to unburden an exile. You will want to work with an exile that you know well, either one from a previous exercise or one that you have moved through all of the previous steps. This is usually done after the exile has been retrieved, but that is not necessary. You can still unburden exile if something has shifted in the original situation and the exile has decided to stay. Before you make contact with the exile, reaffirm that you are in self and that the protectors recognize that you are. You might take a few deep breaths and surround yourself with a colored or white light. You might bring this light in through the crown of your head and let it fill your body, bringing you peace, clarity, compassion, and any other self quality. Take a deep breath, confirm that you still have permission from any protector that has been involved, and make contact with the exile. Present the idea of unburdening to the exile. You might say, I can help you get rid. Katniss, funny. You might say, I can help you get rid of the burden that you have been carrying. You can release all those bad feelings, memories, negative thoughts, pain, and confusions from the past. Do you want to do that? Help the exile through any reluctance it might have. Fill in below your experience of unburdening exile. So you list the exile, what happened in childhood, how that made the exile feel, the form of reparenting you gave the exile, if the exile was retrieved, where you took it, burdens the exile carries, concerns the exile has about unburdening, ways you handled its concerns, where the exile carries the burdens in its body, the element, spiritual figure, or other place or thing that burdens were released to, positive qualities that emerged, where the part wanted to stay, and use the journal space below to take specific notes on this process. Okay, so then we have a sample. Unburdening exile. Exile, the good girl again. What happened in childhood? Rejected by friends at a new school. How that made the exile feel. Lonely, rejected, and as if there was something wrong with her. The form of reparenting you gave the exile. Self came in to be her friend. If the exile was retrieved where you took it, yes. Taken home with me. Burdens the exile carries, feeling weird and unacceptable. Rejected by friends and not supported by new teachers at school. She feels devalued and not accepted for who she is. Concerns the exile has about unburdening. Wants to make sure that I will be her friend. Ways you handled its concerns. I assured her that I would be her friend. Where the exile carries the burdens in its body, shoulders, she has hunched posture, collapsed chest to protect pain in heart and ungrounded feet. What elements, spiritual figure, or other place or thing that the burdens were released to? Went into the forest and dug a big hole to put the burden in and poured water from the creek over her to cleanse her. Then she danced around the hole like an Indian. Positive qualities that emerge: playfulness, spontaneity, curiosity, when the part wanted to stay home with me, or the part wanted to stay home with me. All right, guys, that's it for today. Bye.